Ladies and gentlemen, hello to a new kind of video series that I wanted to do. I just felt like doing it, kind of had the idea kicking around for a little while, and was like, why don't I just do this? And decided I would make some kind of, slideshows to have a little bit of fun with it, right? That way I don't just randomly ramble for, like an hour and a half, just for no real good reason, right? Anyway, on to what we're going to be talking about. I have a lot of, go over to here, video game ideas. And it's going to be just basically me rambling, basically. I do have some notes on other slides that we'll be talking about that we'll get into. So, yeah, welcome to this new series where I'm going to talk about video game ideas that I have that I'm not really able to create myself due to, well, being one person, not really understanding how various things work with the games, and limited technology of our time currently, right? But anyway, let's get on to it. So I'm going to kind of give a little bit of an introduction, first of all, to this series, and kind of tell you how things are going to go and play out, right? So first of all, yeah, I just got a ton of ideas, and I have no way to make most of them. I've made some games before, mostly 2D ones, actually only 2D ones. I haven't really made any 3D ones. Because the 3D ones would require me to get 3D models and then to get people to animate those models and stuff. And since I'm really just a coder, I don't really have a way to make much of that into a reality. So I've been sort of limited to 2D only because it's cheaper than getting full 3D models and animations and stuff done for them there and all that. So yeah, that's where that's at. The other thing is it's just fun to talk about this kind of stuff and kind of throw ideas out there. And also by throwing these ideas out into the world, maybe someone like you or someone who is in the game industry, and you can reach out and be like, hey, this guy's throwing out ideas, take note, right? Also, I just like to talk, so it's nice to throw all that stuff together. On to the next one. So, do you want to use my ideas? Go for it. You don't even got to give me credit. All I ask is just a free copy of the game, since it was my idea, right? Sure, it's been polished and stuff, but just give me a free copy. Come on, I just want to play a game, right? Or maybe hook me up with a job helping to create the game, making me a I don't even know what it's really called. It wouldn't really be a creative director, right? Because they're more of like a manager of how everything flows together. I just want to throw out ideas, right? So maybe a writer would be the right thing, right? I think that would be really cool. I could imagine myself immersing myself into the lore of the world and just writing books. Think of Oblivion and Skyrim, Elder Scrolls and Fallout, where you have all these notes or actual books in the Elder Scrolls series that are just scattered around full of lore. Yeah, I could just write up a bunch of those, just stick me on that. I could come up with quest ideas, all that good jazz. Anyway, yeah, whatever. Use them yourself. I don't care. Do whatever you want, my guys. Just done with the game. I want to play it. Okay? All right, so with that out of the way, the little introduction, let's actually talk about one, I'm going to use air quotes and say game idea that I have here. It's a game that I call the Hub. And I'm going to introduce you to it, tell you how I envision it, and just kind of go from there. So, think of the Hub as a meeting place. It is the start of your journey in this world of games that I have envisioned, right? It's where you will go and then you can choose a game to play after you're there. You'll have social interaction between players if you are able to make it online, and it'll have a bunch of fun activities and things to do, right? If any of you have played the game Phantasy Star Universe, specifically Phantasy Star Universe, not Phantasy Star Online, that game had, when you loaded in, you were in this hub world city thing, and in order to go to a mission or do something, you would go to a gate, and that's kind of what I envision. There's lounge areas for you to chill in, and then you can go to this area and go into like a mission from like the specific gate area. Think of it like a shopping mall. And now I'm going to talk about the layout here. That's a nice segue into it. Think of it like a shopping mall, how it has multiple layers. There's different storefronts. There's rooms for different things. There's just in like the open areas, there's like lounges or fountains and things where you can like hang out with your friends. You can meet new people. You can form groups and get to know each other before you go into a game. And there's also like instant areas that you can move between like servers. When I'm thinking of this, I'm thinking specifically in terms of Phantasy Star Universe. They had these like little crystals throughout the city, and you could use those to change between universes. So you go to like Universe 1 or Universe 2. They're just separate instances of the same city, but it's just a way to kind of like divide the population up, because obviously if you have a million players, right, you can't necessarily have them all in the same area with today's technology, right? Because that would just overstrain systems with all the people being loaded in, right? And it would also make it kind of hard to move around or stuff like that. So you'd want to kind of separate it into like, say, 1,000 people sectors. But if you and your friends wanted to meet up, you could say, let's go to Universe 12, and then go there and meet up and, you know, hang out and whatnot. And like I was mentioning, they would have like gateways where you could enter into a game that you would want to play, basically, right? Kind of my vision or my theme here, right? Because the hub, it isn't a game itself per se, but it is like a gateway to the games. It is a way that you can create a world of your game, right? Now, I want you to think about a huge company, right? Since I've already mentioned Elder Scrolls and Fallout, let's mention Bethesda, right? So if Bethesda made the hub, what would essentially happen is each gateway would lead you to a different game. So there'd be a gateway for Skyrim, a gateway for Fallout 4, a gateway for, you know, all the other ones like Oblivion, Morrowind, Fallout 2, Fallout 1, Fallout New Vegas, although that one made by Obsidian, not necessarily Bethesda, but that's another thing aside. Anyway, all that different stuff you would have a different gateway for. But you would have the hub, right? And the way that it would work, or that I envision it working, is you would buy one game, like let's say you buy Skyrim, and it would come with a free copy of the hub. And in order to get into Skyrim, I mean, obviously you could just, if you wanted to, launch directly into Skyrim and play it, but you could also go into the hub, and then once you're there, walk over to the gate that is dedicated to Skyrim. It'll check to see if you own the game, which you do, and then it'll let you in, and you can play the game. Now, if you go to like the hub for, let's say, Morrowind, and try to get into it, if you don't own the game, it'll say you don't have it, and it'll present you with like a screen if you want to buy it. That's kind of what I'm thinking. And you can just buy the game in the hub and then just play it directly afterwards. No need to get out of the game or anything like that. And honestly, with the hub, I kind of would imagine it in like a VR world. Like, not like a VR chat kind of thing, but I'm thinking like way into the future when we have full dive VR technology where we can just put on a helmet, like completely separate ourselves from our bodies and put ourselves in like a new body in this like world, this 3D game world, right? Like Sword Art Online anime kind of stuff, right? That's the kind of stuff that I'm thinking about right now. Obviously, with today's technology, you can't really do that. You could still have a, you know, thing like this in today's world. It just would not be like a full dive, you know, you go in like that. Or even a VR thing. That would be really complicated to do as well. But you could do still like a third person, like an MMO kind of thing, where you go in and do all that, right? That would make sense. But let's set that stuff aside for right now and continue on. So I did mention activities in the hub. And so the way I'm imagining it is there's different shops and stuff like that around. And like I said, I mentioned it being like a full dive VR game for a lot of this stuff. And I'm imagining like arcades with, you know, simple classic games. Like you have the dancing games like DDR, you have crane games, you have like fighting games like Street Fighter and all that. You even have those like little racing games that have like the car seat that you can like drive in and all that kind of stuff, right? I think that would be really cool. But from a modern technology standpoint, you could still have those, but you'd have like an arcade game and you like go up to it and you press like the E key to interact. It would bring up that game and you could play like Tetris, or you could play Galaga, or, you know, classic games. Like classic Doom could be on there for all, you know, I care about, because you can run Doom on anything, right? So, classic Doom, that is. But yeah, just kind of like an arcade, you can do that. You could even have it be so you pay real money to get in-game currency that you can use in the arcade to play these games. Like, think of it like a quarter per game, like a real arcade, basically, right? That way you can pay for all the, you know, franchise licensing that you would need in order to get all these games up and running, unless you wanted to make them all from scratch, you know, which you could do, but meh, right? Why do that when you could just license a game out? I think that would be kind of interesting. You could also like rotate games around, like have a bunch of games in reserve, and then let's say, okay, Tetris hasn't been played very often, let's swap it out for a new game, and just kind of have like a rotating system, so every time like people come in, it's a new game or something like that, right? Just interesting stuff like that. You also don't have to necessarily have an in-game currency. You could just have them directly pay with like a linked credit card or something like that. I just think with a in-game currency, it would be better to have people like register that, oh, I'm putting money into this, like real money into this, so I should stop. Otherwise, if you're like in the game playing it and you're like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna keep playing this game, you're not necessarily registering that you're, you know, actually paying real money, because there's not like an interaction of you getting money, right? You're not like paying, you're just using the game. So if it just links directly to like a credit card, it would not necessarily be good, right? Like you'd have to go to like a separate, like a change machine, think of it like that, and then it would bring up like the buy extra tokens kind of thing, and then you would actually pay real money there. You know that you have a certain amount of tokens, and when you run out, you would have to repeat that process, and you wouldn't be able to just keep going and going and going and, you know, lose a bunch of money like that without, you know, doing stuff. Also, I was thinking about like shops that sell avatars and stuff like that, or not necessarily avatars, but like clothing. Like you could get, you know, different clothing, hairstyles, tattoos, anything you want that you want your like avatar character guy to be, right? So if you wanted to have a t-shirt or like a ballroom dress or whatever you wanted, you could like go to a shop and buy one. What you could also do to like encourage people to like be part of the game, which is something I will bring up in future games that I talk about as well. I think one neat thing to do is to release like the ability to create things in the world to players. Because people love modding games, right? But I think what would be really cool is if you give people the ability to make clothing, which then shows up in the shop, and then they can earn a percentage of the money for the clothing that they design and sell in the shop, right? Obviously, it's only a percentage, because once you do submit a design, the developers would have to take a look at it, confirm that it is good, and, you know, it's not something offensive, like, you know, obscenities and stuff, and then maybe touch it up a little bit to make it, you know, kind of in line with everything, you know, kind of stuff like that, right? It'd be kind of cool. And of course, you would buy that stuff with like real money, or you could even do like an in-game currency that is earned through playing other games and stuff like that, not even real money. But yeah. And then also going into the whole full dive VR thing, I think restaurants and cafes would be cool, where you can buy like coffee or spaghetti or steaks or whatever you wanted and actually eat it in game. And if full dive VR ever happens and we're able to like replicate tastes and smells, I think that'd be a really cool way to like try out new food, right? Rather than buying something in the real world, trying it and being like, oh yeah, I don't like that, you could try it at an in-game cafe and be like, oh, this is actually pretty cool, right? Aside from that, there's also sporting arenas you could do, like baseball, football, tennis, all that kind of good stuff. You could have sporting arenas that are like dedicated for that, like instance areas where you would like go out into the hub and be like, yo, anyone want to play a game of football? And you'd get a team together. You would all go to this specific instanced arena, and you could play a match of football in game. Again, it would be really cool with like full dive VR, because it'd be like you're actually playing football without having to like go outside into the real world and do it, right? Because you could literally just find people, pick up a game, and have fun, right? Another thing would be player homes, which would be great. The way this worked in Phantasy Star Universe, I'm going to keep coming back to that, because that's kind of what the hub, I think, I'm kind of like basing it off of. So player homes are like instanced individual homes, right? You can like decorate them. You can put up different wallpapers or floors or ceilings, that kind of stuff that you want, right? You can even kind of expand it a little bit, and stuff like that. And then you can invite people by like sending them like a friend invite or something, or like friends can just invite you to your home, or you can set up different settings for it. And you can like have like little meetings or like guild meetings. You could even do guild halls like this. Set up like instanced areas that you could go to set up guilds. Or if the technology is available, have like an entire instanced district that you go to that has like homes, kind of like Final Fantasy has it, where you can Final Fantasy 15, I should specify, or is it 14? It's 14, right? The MMO one. Anyway, it has like the player homes that are like next to each other, so you can go in this area and like interact with people who are like your neighbors and stuff like that. That'd be really cool, right? But then also, of course, they have the NPCs, like shopkeepers who would sell you the clothing and stuff like that, or just talk to them. If we ever get to the point where NPCs have really advanced AIs, you could talk to and level up your relationship with the NPCs, and you become friends with them and stuff like that. And I think that would be really cool. But I think two of the big things with the hub that I would love to have implemented: game monitors to display what players in the games are doing, and also gambling on said games. Now, let me explain this a little bit better. So think of it this way. You go outside of the Skyrim gateway. There's kind of a little bar area that has a bunch of monitors inside of it, right? And then people, real players who have opted into this feature, have a like third-person camera that floats behind them at all times, and then you can watch them playing the game from inside the hub. It's kind of like if they were like live streaming, right? They'd be live streaming, but you can actually see what the game looks like inside the hub, collect around things and watch. And I think that would also be very good for the gambling aspect, because then you could have like PvP tournaments and events and stuff like that, where you would have a bunch of people gather. You could bet on who or like what team you think is gonna win, and earn money and currency and stuff from that, right? I just think that would be a really interesting thing. But also, it would give the players who have not seen this game before an opportunity to see the game in the hub before they actually buy it, right? So if they were like interested in like this one game you saw here, you would be able to see it and be like, oh, that game looks really cool, and kind of do that. And you could do a lot of things with it. You could have it be where, if you're sitting at a certain table, you get to control the TV that's at that table. Or you can like call a vote for like a big TV to show a certain player, and then you can just kind of flick through the players you want to see and go through that as a community there and whatnot. And every single game's gateway would have these like bars next to them where you'd be able to view the players who are playing things and going through like that, right? I think that would be a very cool and fun experience. Again, I'm kind of basing this off of, VR stuff. And actually, this has been done in an anime called, it's the Sword Art Online Gun Gale Online side stories, right? Where they have these bars for all their events, and they can go there, and they're like showing the players doing the battle royales or the bullet battle. I forget what they're called, but the PvP matches that are happening, they're having like gambling in bars, and they have like the video of the players fighting on the screens. I think that's a really cool concept, which would be amazing to have in there, right? So there's all that kind of stuff thrown together, right? Now let's talk about the games specifically, right? We've talked about the hub and how it works and everything that would be included in the hub. So think of each game after the first one you buy. It'd be kind of like a separate DLC, right? So the main game is the hub. And then when you first buy one of the games that belongs to the hub, you get the hub for free. It kind of comes along with the first game, like you activate a code or something like that to get the hub, and then you can play, the game. Or if you don't want to use the hub, you can just go directly into the game, right? And as I mentioned, you can see the other games and how to access them, but you can't get into the game's gateway unless you're, own the game. And with it being the hub, you can throw in an elevator, have it go up to like a third floor, and then the third floor there, you can add a new game that, is newly developed. Or you can have like cordoned off areas where you're like, eventually we're going to make a game and we're going to put it here. And, you can like update the hub, like throw up advertisements for the game that's coming up and stuff like that, right? And then you can, like I said, buy the game from the hub, play it immediately, and go from there, right? So that's kind of the whole idea, right? The whole idea is this like seamless. You're in the hub, talking to people, whatnot, meeting some friends. Like, hey, how you doing? How's your gaming going? It's kind of like nice, chill, laid back area, right? And you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna go play Skyrim now, so I'll catch you later. You go to the Skyrim gate, you go through it, you select on a screen what load file you want to load into, it pulls up your save data, teleports you into the game, and there you go, right? Now, the way I really imagine the hub going is not like necessarily random multiplayer games or random single player games in here. What I am imagining is MMOs over and over again. Nothing but MMOs in the hub, right? Now obviously you can do it with like single player games or multiplayer games, whatever you want, right? But my original vision is, let's say you have a fantasy RPG game that you have out there, right? And your avatar that you have in the hub is your basic default character that you created. And when you want to go into this fantasy RPG, fantasy game, right? You go to the gate, and if you start it for the first time, you can choose to play with the current model that you're, the avatar you have on, so like a random human guy, right? Or you can like choose to modify your avatar, you can make it a different race, and then when you go into the game, you would transition from, a random guy wearing a t-shirt and blue jeans, for example, into a elf wearing a fur coat and armor and stuff like that, right? I think that would be kind of cool. Like, a lot of the full dive stuff that is done in anime and in fiction stuff that we currently have right now is you take like a scan of your body, and then it like makes that your avatar in the game, right? And you can kind of like tweak some settings, like tweak the hair color and the eye color, the size, the height, kind of that kind of stuff, right? I think it'd be really cool. And then you go to a different area and different game, do the same thing. You can choose to have the same character or be like a different one. You can kind of carry things between it, right? I just think that's pretty cool. Yeah, but all that stuff just seamlessly between MMOs and MMOs, right? Because you have guilds that obviously operate, right? So if you want to have a guild across multiple MMOs, the hub would be a great place to like gather together to talk about things outside of the actual game itself. to have like those hidden meetings and discuss things while in like a laid back area, right? I think that would be really nice. You know, just really cool. But yeah, that's kind of the hub. I don't think I have anything else here. Yeah, this is the final slide here. But yeah, that's the first thing I wanted to talk about is the hub, because it kind of links everything together, right? It also isn't a huge in-depth, like, by itself game. It's not like a real game. It's like a social simulator thing. Kind of like Tower Unite or VR Chat. You know, you go to the lobby, and then there's other games you can play or different things you can go to, different worlds to explore. That's essentially what the hub is, right? But it's more specific to a company, or even, I guess you could have multiple companies working on the hub, or even just one company owns the hub, and then they charge developers to have their games in the hub. So, for like an example of this, Microsoft could make the hub, and then they could have, you know, different floors dedicated to each franchise they have. Like Bethesda could be on one floor, Call of Duty could be on another. They could have a floor just for indie titles, that kind of stuff. I think that would be really cool, right? But that's just kind of this idea. Now, in future episodes, what I'll be doing is I'll be talking about a specific game from the start. I won't have any of the initial, like, introduction, want to use my ideas nonsense. We're just going to go straight in. The game is this, and this is how I imagine it, right? So I have some stuff for, like, sci-fi, for, like, mech games. I have stuff for, like, RPGs, MMOs. Just so many ideas that I have that I just cannot make myself, as I've mentioned, because I am limited by the technology of my time. And also just the fact that I'm not a rich person who can afford dozens of 3D models, because modern AAA games require like millions of dollars, and if I'm making a 3D game, I would want it to be unique and not just an asset, not an asset flip, because an asset flip is not just having assets that are like available that you can buy for like, here's like $15, give me a set of all these assets, right? It's like not just a game that has pre-milled assets that if you look at my game and another person's game, they could look pretty similar just visually because I have the same assets as someone else, right? Because I bought them from the asset store, right? The way I want to make games is my stuff should feel unique, right? I shouldn't have too many things that are from like free stores, or that I could like buy from, you know, someone who's like, here's this background stuff that I have for this. Feel free to like buy it for like whatever you want, or like here's a $5 pack of all these assets and stuff. Now I have all my games use those. I'm not opposed to them, but I like to in every game that I have made have something like new or unique. Like all of my enemies, for the most part, in most of my games, most of the enemies I actually commissioned someone specifically to make the animations for me, for my characters, even though they might have had some like other things. Like I think one guy actually had some slime enemies that, you know, didn't look exactly how I wanted them to be. So I was like, hey, just make some new slimes for me and we'll call it good. And then since I already have all those assets, I've just been kind of using them between my games, so that way I don't have to buy new stuff, because it gets pricey. Animation get pricey. And like I said, I'm rambling, just as the title said. Just rambling, basically. But yeah, that's a whole other thing. Regardless, what do y'all think about the hub and the game ideas and this series in general? Are you interested in hearing about the video game ideas that I have that I'm probably never going to be able to make or contribute to? Is it cool? You know, do you have any particular genre you want me to talk about the ideas that I have for, right? Anything like that, just feel free to yell it in the comments, and we'll go from there. And of course, subscribe. Because why not say that in this video, right? Screw it, I don't say it in any other videos. Yeah, like and subscribe to see more of this amazing content of me rambling on about games that are probably never going to be made, because let's be honest, I'm just a random nobody talking about this, and I ain't gonna be able to make them. That's why I'm talking about them. So, but yeah, I think it's always fun, you know, to talk about the stuff that you're passionate about and that you want to see happen. Even if it's things that are like so far in the future that you don't even know if they're going to be real, like full dive VR environments, right? But yeah. Well, before this gets too long for me rambling completely, I'm gonna let you guys go. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.